growing season's in full swing, and that means there's lots of sowing, there's lots of growing, potting on going on. And I get asked a lot of questions about compost, how to get the best from it, what to buy, and how to make it. But confusingly, there's two types of compost. There's the stuff you use for potting on and the stuff from your heap. Now these would be garden compost heaps, and they make garden compost. It's a product you get when you have leaves, grass clippings, cardboard boxes, food waste left in a pile in the garden. Then beneficial fungi and bacteria, worms, slugs and springtails break it down. And what they leave behind, the dark stuff at the bottom of the heap, is this. Yeah, garden compost. It's got a few lumps and bumps in it. And it's great for mulching onto plants. It's got quite a few nutrients in there, but it isn't potting compost. The bag stuff is designed to work in containers. Now I know what you're thinking, why can't you use the soil from your garden? Well, like that garden compost, you can't put this in a pot and think it will work, because it will dry to a hard rock. You see, earth is connected to the water table in your garden, and it draws up moisture from the water table to the surface. If it's stuck in a pot, what happens is it doesn't get that moisture, and then when you water it, it turns into a swamp, and that'll kill your plants. Potting composts are a blend of different materials that behave differently, draw up moisture, dry out more quickly. And you can use soil to make your own. A simple potting compost recipe that I use has 3 ingredients. 1/3 is some topsoil. And like I say, because it's lumpy and bumpy and it's got roots in it and bits of twig, you've got to sieve it, because you don't want all of that stuff going in your potting mix. The next third is garden compost, the stuff from your heap. Again, those lumps and bumps and twigs have got to come out of it for it to work. So run that through the sieve as well. Now the soil provides minerals and a bit of weight, whereas the garden compost provides nutrients. Finally, once you've got those bits out, is leaf mould. Now I've got a big pile of this, collected it the autumn before last. You've seen it covers the base of an old greenhouse. I'm using it to suppress weeds. Now the thing about leaf mould is that it will sit in layers of foliage, layers of leaves that you have to chop up. So get your spade in there first to give it a little cut about, and then this forms your final third. Now leaf mould, unlike garden compost, is pretty inert, hardly has any nutrients in it at all. But what its superpower is holding on to moisture. And that blend of minerals in the soil, food in the garden compost, and moisture retention in the leaf mould, well, it is the secret sauce. And you blend them together and it makes a lovely, creamy, smooth compost. And this stuff, right, I tell you what, I would use this for filling out large containers, patio pots that have shrubs in them that you want to keep in the same pot for a long period of time, because this has got enough body to last for years, much better than the formulations you buy in the bag. That said, I do buy compost in, particularly for sowing and potting on. You can see this place, it's packed to the gunnels with plants, they're everywhere. I'm about to make extra shelving. I do this every spring just to carry, well, gutters of vegetables. That's another story, I'll tell you about that another time. But there's pots on the floor, there's plants on my propagator, my bench is heaving. Yeah, I need a lot of compost. Now, in the old days, we used to buy peat-based compost, and yeah, they were fine, but they're being phased out now because peat comes from a carbon capturing threatened habitat that's home to lots of wildlife. So we've all moved to peat-free. Peat-free compost, so there's a couple of rules. You always have to buy fresh. The stuff that's been kicking around in bags in the shed or underneath your bench that's sat wet, well, the nutrient levels get out of whack. And what happens is they'll either poison plants because they concentrate, become too strong, or they just go through on stilts and plants aren't fed at all. So always buy new. The other thing to know is that when you water peat-free formulations, you do it little and often. They don't need more moisture than a peat-based formulation. They just need it applying more regularly through the growing season. Yeah, little and often is the way to do it. Now, in the olden days, we used to use this stuff. John Innes, right? John Innes compost is soil-based. It's called John Innes because that's the name of the research institute where the recipe for this stuff was developed. At its basic, it's 7 parts loam, which is screened and sterilised garden soil, 3 parts peat or peat-free compost, and then a couple of parts sand. And if you get up close, you can see the amount of little fine sand particles in it. And it behaves pretty much like the mixture that I just made outside in my wheelbarrow. Add a little bit of fertiliser in it as well, but that's from the olden days. And what I do with this is, I'll tell you, I often mixed it with peat-free, 50-50, just to make a heavier mix, and one that lasts longer and holds on to more nutrients, certainly for a longer period of time through the summer. Peat-free formulations tend to be quite lumpy and bumpy, particularly if they're what is known as multi-purpose. Can you see that? All these little bits of twig in them. Now, plants, when they're growing, you know, reasonable sized plants, love a lump or a bump or a twig in the compost because they get their roots around it. But for seedlings, it's not so good because it makes them difficult to prick out. If you've got an embryonic plant that's growing in a very lumpy compost and you try and move it, you almost certainly rip off the roots. No, you need a specialist seed compost for sowing seeds and potting them on and pricking them out. And if you have a look at that, you can see that it looks like coffee grounds, doesn't it? Lots of fine particles. The other thing about a seed compost is that it hardly has any nutrients. You have too much phosphate in a potting compost and it will inhibit your seeds from germinating. They don't need a lot of food. You've got to make them work in their early life so the roots prospect for goodness and nutrients in the bottom of the pot. It makes a quicker establishment actually. Seed sown compost might cost a bit more, but they are worth it, particularly if you sow, as I do, in the air and spare method, i.e. you put 2 seeds in the same pot and hope that one of them will sprout. Now, time and again, you get 2 coming up at the same moment, right? And you don't want them growing cheek per jowl like that. But because I've used seed compost here, these little chili plants, it's possible, and you will never see this in the books, it's possible to pluck them out. And that little fella, complete with its roots, pulled straight from the compost, is good to pot up. Put them in there, a bit more compost around him, and give me another plant for free. And bear in mind, these are from expensive seeds. That is kind of almost made up for the extra cost of the seed and cutting compost that this is grown in. Obviously, I'll water that in. So what are your compost tips? I'd like to know. Leave me a comment.